Gospel this Sunday is about the interaction between Jesus and a chief of the publicans by name Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, you find this in Luke chapter 19, verses 1 to last week. The gospel was about the parable of an unnamed Pharisee and also an unnamed publican. It was a parable, so both of them were unnamed. But today, the gospel is not about a parable, but about the encounter, a real encounter between Jesus and another publican named Zacchaeus. When this happened, Israel was living under Roman rule. We need to remember that, and the Roman Empire would allow conquered people to keep their religions and some kind of a semi-autonomous government as long as they accepted submission to Rome and paid taxes to the empire. Roman citizens living there were exempt from this special tax. To that purpose, the Romans will hire and empower some locals called publicans to collect the taxes for the empire. The Jews despised the publicans because they were known for their corruption. They were dishonest. They were collecting more than required and keeping the difference for themselves. One of the dishonest publicans was Zacchaeus. So from Luke 19, from 1 to 10, Jesus went on into Jericho and was passing through. There was a chief tax collector there, and his name was Zacchaeus, who was also rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but he was a little man. He was shorty, and I could not see Jesus because of the crowd. So he decided, and he ran ahead of the crowd and climbed a sycamore tree to see Jesus, who was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to Zacchaeus, "Hurry down, Zacchaeus, because I must stay in your house today." That must have been a surprise for him. Zacchaeus hurried down and welcomed him with great joy. All the people who saw it started grumbling, "This man has gone as a guest to the home of a sinner." Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Listen, sir, I will give half my belongings to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone, I will pay back 4 times as much." Jesus said to him, "Salvation has come to this house today for this man. Today for this man. For this man also. He's a descendant of Abraham. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." The concerns of the gospel to find the people, facts, items, and activities related in this gospel today. From this gospel, we know that Zacchaeus was a Jew hired by the Romans to collect taxes for the empire. He was a corrupt and rich man who cheated his fellow Jews about their taxes. We also know that he was a short man. We also know that he had the power to collect taxes from them for the Romans. And he did that. But it looks like he abused his power to get himself rich by this simple strategy to collect more taxes than he was supposed to do for the Romans, and that he kept the overpayment for himself. That's how he became rich. But when Zacchaeus heard about Jesus, he wanted to know more about the man who was performing miracles and calling himself the Son of Man. So he climbed a sycamore tree to see Jesus, who was going to pass that way. But when Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to Zacchaeus, "Hurry down, Zacchaeus, because I must stay in your house today." And Zacchaeus hurried down and welcomed him with great joy. But the people who saw it start complaining, saying that this man, Jesus, has gone as a guest to the home of a sinner, Zacchaeus is a sinner, he's a publican. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, listen, sir, I will give half of my belongings to the poor. And if I have cheated anyone, I will pay back 4 times as much. And the listener answered, Jesus said to him, salvation has come to this house today, for this man also is a descendant of Abraham, the Son of Man, came down to seek and to save the lost. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. So what is this gospel about, really? This gospel, the Lord is teaching us, and we should be able to identify and understand at least 6 important teachings. Teaching number 1, why did the Jews despise the publicans? Remember that the Roman Empire was spread all over the known world, from England, all the civilized nations in Africa and the east side, including Israel, Syria, and the northern part of Africa. And this sea, the Mediterranean Sea, was called the Mare Nostrum because they not only control all the routes, but the war book, the war the ships also control everything over there. Was 2 reasons why they hate the publicans. First, it was a political kind of reason. The Roman Empire imposed a discriminatory tax system to the conquered people all around, wherever they were. But the Roman citizens living in those countries were exempted from this special tax. They didn't pay that tax to the empire, just the conquered people. There was also a religious reason. The publicans were known for asking more money than required and keeping the difference for themselves. In other words, they were dishonest and also corrupted. It was greed, one of the 7 capital sins, right here. Also known as 7 deadly sins. Issue number 2 is the question about paying taxes. Jesus did not oppose the payment of taxes. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his own words. They sent their disciples to him along the Herodians. Teacher, they say, we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You are enswayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax. And they brought him a denarius. And he asked them, whose image is this? And whose inscription is this? And they responded, Caesar's, they replied. Then he said to them, so give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. For Matthew 22, verses 15 to 21. Remember, Matthew was another publican who was also a tax collector before Jesus called him to be his disciple. And on the left side, you can see a real coin of that era with the image of Caesar. Then we got the payment of the temple tax from Matthew 17, verses 24 to 27. When Jesus and his disciple came to Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and asked, Peter, does your teacher pay the temple tax? Peter had no idea about that, but he answered, of course. When Peter went to the house, Jesus spoke up first, and he told him, Simon, what is your opinion? Who pays duties or taxes to the kings of this world? The citizens or of the country or the foreigners? The foreigners, answered Peter. Well, then, replied Jesus, that means that the citizens don't have to pay. But we don't want to offend these people. So go to the lake and drop in a line. Pull up the first fish you hook, and in its mouth you will find a coin worth enough for my temple tax and yours. Take it and pay them our taxes. And here you have the Lord instructing Peter to drop a line to fish one fish, to get one fish. And then you have Peter cleaning the fish and finding the coin in his mouth right here. And then he went to the temple and pulled the coin out of the fish and paid the coin to the temple tax for him and for the Lord. Teaching number 3. Zacchaeus was a little man who wanted to see Jesus, so he ran ahead of the crowd and climbed a sycamore tree to see the Lord. You have a picture of Zacchaeus and the Lord over there with a crowd following him. Teaching number 4. When Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to Zacchaeus, hurry down, Zacchaeus, because I must stay in your house today. So here is the Lord ordering Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to stay in your house today. In front of everybody. Zacchaeus hurried down and welcomed him with great joy. Teacher number 5. But the people who saw it started complaining, saying, this man has gone as a guest to the home of a sinner. But Zacchaeus, a sinner, definitely a sinner, a thief, stood up and said to the Lord, listen, sir, I will give half of my belongings to the poor. And if I have cheated anyone, I will pay back 4 times as much. Luke doesn't provide more information about the interaction between Jesus and Zacchaeus, but something is very clear here. Just by looking at his answer to Jesus, he repented from his sins and told the Lord that he would make amendments to those that he had cheated by overtaxing them. Also, to give half of his belongings to the poor. Jesus accepted that and delivered 2 declarations of the utmost relevance. The first one, as a specific one concerning Zacchaeus. Salvation has come to this house today for this man, a descendant of Abraham. And a general declaration about himself, Jesus, and mankind. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. 2 different declarations right here. Teacher number 6, Zacchaeus received from the Lord the gift of looking at the world from a different perspective. Redemption from his sins. The gift of sight. Zacchaeus was very rich. He was also very lonely and very short. Jesus found Zacchaeus up a tree and looking over the crowd so he could see. Jesus chose Zacchaeus and asked to eat with him. After being with Jesus, Zacchaeus didn't just give it back the money that he had stolen. He gave back 4 times as much. And Jesus made him see the world totally different. Just like putting glasses to someone who can't see well. There are some key concepts that you might find useful to remember. First, the promise of redemption was revealed by Jesus to Zacchaeus, and he accepted it. Zacchaeus accepted the promise of redemption, accepted Jesus. Jesus told him, salvation has come to this house today for this man, a descendant of Abraham. Abraham, remember, is the father of the faith in the one and only God in the Holy Trinity. Jesus also revealed to mankind the purpose of the mission his father gave him. The Son of Man came back to seek and to save the lost. That's his mission, the redemption of mankind for those who follow him. So let me ask you some basic review questions. Just a few. What did Jesus revealed to Zacchaeus and to anyone willing to follow Zacchaeus' example? Repentance and doing reparations of the evil they had done. What did Jesus reveal for everybody else, for all mankind? Why did the Jews despise the publicans? References were taken from the Good News Translation GNT, formerly called the Good News Bible. All documents, copyright and rights reserved by the proper authors. This is Alejandro Burgos from El Paso, Texas. And I see you next Sunday.